Good afternoon, my name is KarQ. We're back with another episode of the Overwatch Hot Takes. Remember to leave yours in the comments. We'll go through them slowly. It's in a giant pool. I think there's over 100 entries here. I'm going to hit shuffle. First one we have here. Hot Take: supports shouldn't do more damage than DPS. It makes no sense that, for example, a KarQ or Wuyang do more damage than an Ashe hitting a lot of headshots, but doesn't kill because of fall off damage. Well, supports need to have a little bit of lethality, and that's their rationale, which I agree. You can't have every support do absolutely nothing. That's where you get a lot of like Mercies and Lifeweavers who don't really output a lot, so they're not very threatening. If you have two supports, or every single support in the roster have no threatening offense, you literally only have 3 people to worry about with offensive pressure. And honestly, it just simplifies and dumbs down the game too much. I think supports do need to have a threat in some capacity. Now, your comparison isn't really fair because there's other variables than just the raw damage number you see on the screen. There's fire rate, there's projectile travel time. It really depends on what hero we're talking about. So your example with KarQ, kunai projectile. It's a little slow, and if she does it, then, you know, there's a little bit of time in between while you're... I mean, obviously a good KarQ knows how to weave in healing into kunais, but if you're committing to throwing 6 kunais in a row in a 1v1, you're not doing healing. You're not healing anybody else because you're focused in that portion. So you're trading one resource for another. The fire rate of the kunai, there's projectile travel time. It's not quite the same as an instantaneous hit scan with Ashe, and Ashe has other parts of her kit. You have dynamite. You have all that damage will lead up to Bob, which is a very offensive oriented ultimate, but then heroes like KarQ, when they build up some ult charge, it's a very engagement team based ultimate with Kitsune Rush. Similar to Wuyang, his is a travel time. He has a unique aim style, and like if they're across the map like a Pharah and I'm trying to like fire an orb and hit the Pharah, it's not going to be very accurate as Wuyang. Same with KarQ hitting a Pharah in the sky, but in Ashe, the Pharah much more reliably. So like it's not really a good, what do you say, apples to apples comparison. And no, I'm not doing the 6-7 thing, okay? I'm not that young anymore. Hot take: Lifeweaver's platform should not work for the enemy team if it's breakable. Okay, so this was actually in last week's take. There were a lot of comments on it, and I did read last week's thing where the fact that Lifeweaver works for enemies such as Orissa's ultimate, it acts as a counter, and I honestly totally forgot about that until I read that, which is a great point. So Lifeweaver's platform should still work for the enemy. Maybe you have some agency on when to activate and lift it up, but other than that, it should absolutely still function. I disagree with this take. Incredible counterplay when you lift them up. If they're chasing you and then they try to chase you and they walk and they just get lifted up, and then their sight line changes, and then you choose when to break it, and now they're airborne and falling down. I think it's a really cool interaction. We should leave it as is. All right, let's find another take here. Oh, this one's from Reddit. Could and should Wuyang ultimate plus Tracer be in line with other combo targets? This doesn't affect ladder, but isn't in pros. Tidal Blast in many cases. Tracer go kill? Question mark. While it's a cool synergy with mobility, it feels kind of undermining the flexible utility of the ult. I don't imagine it's interesting either. There's little you can do to stop a 600 HP Tracer from delivering an Earth Shatter to your face. Is there a way to even balance this sort of outlier synergy, and should it be balanced? That's one of the stronger combos. I think when I first saw Wuyang's ultimate, I'm like, oh my god, the fact that you get so much HP, it's absolutely incredible. But I don't think you need to balance that specifically. Wuyang's ultimate, it costs a lot, right? You're expending an ultimate, and for Tracer, you're expending a lot of blinks, and the Tracer has to be ready, which means she's not in a position where she's going to blink to you to receive the ult and then have an extra blinks to go into the enemy. She's got to be prepared for it, which means if she's nearby your Wuyang, maybe wherever they are in the early not so backline, the Tracer's not already in the backline pressuring them as we speak. So there's always trade-offs with resources. I don't think this particular combo needs to be nerfed. It's a great and powerful combo, but so are many other combos in the game when 2 abilities are used together in conjunction. I mean, Nano Blade, you can argue is the same thing. You nano the Genji, oh my god, this blade does so much, he can kill you. Same with this one. It's a delivery of an Earth Shatter because of the Tidal Blast, but the thing with Tidal Blast is there's a timer on it. You hear the voice line activate, and you know you have like whatever 3 seconds, and I don't really know if it's 3 seconds, but intuitively you play against Wuyang enough, you know exactly how long it takes before it detonates. If you're a Reinhardt, no matter where the Tracer is, you can flash your shield at the right time. As a Zarya, you can time your bubble. If I'm a KarQ and I hear the Tracer, it's actually less about hearing the Tracer blink and more about hearing her timing the Wuyang and knowing when it's about to pop, because she's going to blink at the last second before the pop to knock you down. You can Suzu it. There are ways to play around it, and that's the beauty of of the game. So I don't think this combo particularly needs a nerf, but it is very good. Hot take, the majority of players don't know how counter picks work. I'm pretty sure if you tell your teammate to switch, you should explain to them exactly how they have to play this hero to counter enemies' certain characters. Yeah, but if you tell your teammate to switch, there's no guarantee that they know exactly how to play the other hero, and then people hate being backseated in the middle of the game. It's so annoying when someone tells you how to play a hero that you probably play or don't play. And for that reason, your take on majority of players don't know how counter picks works is exactly why you don't need to do that to necessarily win the game. You could just play what you're strong and good at more than anything. Unless you are willing to learn how the counter pick matchup is, then go right ahead, and learning which abilities really, annoy or frustrate another hero that seems to be problematic, sure, that's fine. But majority of people don't know how that works. And I honestly, like, people will say, oh my God, this hero counters me. But then the person who plays it may not even know that. And I'm talking about the wide net of Overwatch players. When you look at this game as a whole, there's a lot of people who don't know. Maybe you guys do because you watch videos like this and you're not an Overwatch casual, but the majority of them don't. So if you ask your teammate to switch, I'm just going to say they may not be very receptive to it. And it may not even benefit you very much, which is why when I play, maybe I'll lightly suggest it if I think this certain hero is problematic, and I'll be like, oh, do you think you can play this hero? Maybe you can deal with them, and then they'll be like, no, I don't play that hero, and I just leave it at that. Okay, that's fine. Like, I'm not going to force you to play a hero you don't know how to play. And I think more people should understand that. It should never be like, oh, you can't play this hero, GG's, because they're going to win the game. Hot take, the fact that we have to complain to get back staple modes that have been in the game since the launch of Overwatch, such as Lucio Ball in this case, shows that there is a clear disconnect between the developers and their community. It feels as if they're losing the identity of the game in pursuit of making it constantly new and modern. I just don't think they realize the impact that some of those old modes had. I think internally they saw Lucio Ball's play rate. I'm spitballing. I don't know if this is true. That like it was going down every year and people just weren't interested. Probably the first day it comes back every summer games and then it's gone. The one year they're like, whatever, we're just not going to bring it back. Most people don't care. And then all of a sudden there's a big outrage. But then I think internally they also saw that like, okay, people have made this outrage, so we did bring it back and still nobody's playing this damn mode. I mean, I didn't touch Lucio Ball. I haven't touched Lucio Ball since like 2016, 2017. I certainly wasn't the one complaining with the community, but like at the same time, the community is like a large voice and you still have to find that middle ground. So despite what their stats say, if the community does always want the Lucio Ball, then at least they're listening. There probably is a little disconnect for sure, so I don't disagree with you in that sense. But like they're looking at it realistically versus the loud minority. I wouldn't even say the majority, just a loud minority. And they are caving in the sense that they're like, fine, okay, we'll just bring it back then. But realistically, it's a balance between the two, and I need to stop doing this. Hot take, Hazard is one of the best designed kits in the game, especially compared to a majority of the other tanks. People have a negative perception of him simply because he was overtuned at launch. But now that his numbers have been lowered, you can see that his kit isn't just sustained. He's extremely dynamic and has a high skill ceiling that allows for a lot of interesting and well thought out plays from both teams. I honestly really agree. I think Hazard is actually really fun. He can be a little annoying at times when his numbers are a little too overtuned, but for sure, like the way his kit kind of plays together with the wall being used as a separator, as a little like object for you to climb and latch onto, the fact that he can vault on top of that, he can leap, he can do damage, he can block if needed. I think he's a really, really well-designed hero all in all. So I don't think this is a hot take. Well, I guess it is a hot take in the sense that it might not be a common opinion, right? Because most people have a sour opinion of Hazard, but maybe it's because he's frustrating to play and less so about his cool design. Okay, I'm gonna double down on that Ana hot take. Okay, I think this is in response to the Ana nade thing that we talked about a few weeks ago. Ana is by far the most overpowered support. Name one support that can literally dictate the entire battlefield like Ana. Ooh, maybe Kiriko? I understand she has her weakness, but the amount of escapes options she has is only rivaled by Kiriko. Oh, there we go. She's also the prime example on why crowd control doesn't work in Overwatch. If there is one Ana on the enemy team, you have to switch up everything, not only team coordination, but also characters that can't be played when there's an Ana. If it takes a whole team to try and kill one character, then that is bad design. And honestly, she's probably one of, if not the main reason why tank isn't fun in Overwatch, because of one anti-grenade, which can reduce tanks to 0 in a matter of seconds. Yeah, I'm also gonna double down on the counterpoint to Ana. And obviously I do play a lot of Ana, so maybe some bias is showing, but I'm trying to speak objectively here. So you asked again, so let's unpack this. By far the most overpowered support. Objectively incorrect based on the true win rates shown at every rank on every region on their official website. Ana's kind of mediocre. I think sub 50% for most regions. Only region is Asia, in which it complements pretty well with the high level of dive tanks. But even so, I think it's only like low 50, like 50.1% in Grandmaster Plus. The one that's actually dominating, according to the stats, is still Wuyong, despite his recent nerfs. So you understand she has her weakness. Okay, great. But the amount of escapes options she has is rivaled by KarQ. She has 0 escape options. She's immobile. There's many heroes with more mobility than Ana. We have Lucio, we have Moira, Fade, KarQ, Suzu, KarQ, TP. Lucio has speed. Zenyatta is the only one that can rival Ana in terms of the lack of mobility with absolutely nothing. And even then, I think Zen actually has some perks now that give him a little floaty stuff. So maybe he can like hop over like the Lijiang Bridge, but I wouldn't take that perk personally. Anyway, she's a prime example of why crowd control doesn't work in Overwatch. I actually would say I disagree with that too, because like imagine a game of Overwatch with full dive with no crowd control. It's just movement simulator. And that's assuming everybody is willing to play those heroes in every game. Now, if there is one Ana on the enemy team, you have to switch up everything. Not only team coordination, but also characters that can't be played when there's Ana. I mean, you can always learn to play around it. You have to pressure and force her to shoot the cooldowns. If she's only using the cooldowns on you, that's kind of like a team problem, or even you, like where the only way you force her to use cooldowns is to like make sure there's enough pressure in any aspect to force her to use it. Sometimes the Ana has to use the nade defensively and not just sit there and anti-you specifically. How do you make her nade her own team instead of you? By like dealing damage and pressuring at the right times. You can bait sleep darts out, you can block them with certain abilities, and let's say we take the abilities out using natural cover, assuming she even has good aim. If you have good mobility, there's lots of ways to work around that. If it takes the whole team to try to kill one character, sometimes you don't need a whole team to kill a single Ana. Sometimes a single Winston can dive and absolutely kill her. A single Tracer can kill her. A single Genji can kill her. There's lots of heroes that can kill her. A Widowmaker can just snipe her when she's scoped in and not looking. Same with Hanzo. You know, there's a lot of ways to kind of go about it. The only one I can agree with, it's the reason why tank isn't fun in Overwatch. Okay, I understand from the tank perspective, it can be very, very annoying to play against an Ana, assuming she's always throwing those abilities at you. And maybe this is also a wake-up call to not maybe press W into her when you know she has both her cooldowns available. One anti-grenade doesn't necessarily reduce you to 0 in a matter of seconds. It, you know, puts a little modifier on you. You could play cover, you can get some help from your team, some Suzus, Immortality Field, there's Lucio Beat. There's lots of, I think you're looking at Ana too much in a vacuum and less about the realistic team play and what happens. And yes, you're gonna be like, oh, my teammate never works together. Well, if you say they never works together, you're a little bit delusional. It happens. You'll have some combos eventually. You'll have some people jumping the Ana when you're a tank and you can't deal with her. You're gonna eventually have one Genji on your team who's actually shooting her, right? Over 1,000 games, you're telling me that never happens? Yeah, I don't believe you. Hot take, map voting should be anonymous. Hide the votes until the end of voting time. So you don't get the little ticker. And then show them all at once with your team able to see what you voted and see the vote appear simultaneously. There is sort of a peer pressure. I wouldn't say peer pressure, but definitely some psychology. I agree. Now, add on the fact when 9 out of 10 people vote for the same map and some people can't help their troll-like instincts to just pick a random other map, just to laugh when it gets chosen over the majority vote. By anonymizing the votes, you remove both the peer pressure and the ability for trolls to have any impact whatsoever on map choice. Other than that, I do love map voting, and I just wish lower ranks would be more willing to play Flashpoint maps over Hybrid and Escort. Honestly, this is a good take. I actually genuinely agree with this now that I see that. The troll-like instincts resonates with me because it's me. I'm the troll. I actually am pretty indifferent to most maps in the game. Sometimes I have a favorite and I want to play it, but if I'm indifferent to all 3 choices and I see the majority, sometimes I'm like, well, me personally, I don't care if it's that one or this one that has no votes or 1 vote. I'm going to pick the other one. I don't even think it's a troll. It's just a map. Get good at all the maps. But no, I can see where you're coming from for the anonymous part. The end result is still the same, minus the psychology and mind games of it. You can't see the enemy ones anyway. Like, you can't tell if it's your teammates or your enemies voting for it because it's just a cumulative counter, right? So just, yeah. Hot take, many support players who complain about tanks leaving their LOS are actually just refusing to push forward alongside their team and reposition as needed. Most tanks need to be moving very often and constantly reposition in order to take and deny space, and it is selfish to expect them to always cater to your LOS when you yourself refuse to reposition. You know what? This is not a hot take at all. I agree with this. Movement is dynamic for both positions. Yes, tanks have to dynamically move, and so do supports. You are correct. I remember I used to do a lot of Ana coaching and Ana VOD reviews, and some Anas in Platinum were the most passive heaters I've ever seen in my life, and they'll just sit like Holly. I remember this egregious example of Hollywood 3rd point defense. They're just sitting. It's a good defensive position behind the box, right? Near the spawn where the health pack is. You know, there's a little RV truck that whole back platform. Good spot, but like the fight, if it's right there at the choke and like they're about to cap, sure, it's a great spot. But then like you have numbers advantage and then your team is moving up and they wrap the corner to the left and they're like want to push out in the Hollywood 3rd point entrance closer to their spawn. You're pressuring in the frontal part of the map and these Anas are just sitting in the far back with the worst sight line possible and praying that if they back up, then they get to participate in the fight and heal their tank. But they're nowhere near anywhere close to offensively nade or anything. So I absolutely agree with this take. It's not hot at all. Many support players who complain are also not repositioning themselves. Absolutely agreed. But that doesn't dismiss the fact that there truly are tanks going out of LOS in a bad spot. But that's Overwatch. At every rank, not everyone's going to understand the current game state and the variables and where all the positions are. Where the tank thinks it's correct to go here, but the support thinks it isn't. Maybe if somebody higher rank looking in be like, well, honestly, it's probably better expected value if the support did reposition to help them. But then there's going to be cases where the team hero, the tank absolutely pushed up way too far, especially when no one else was helping them. Even though that might be the right play in a vacuum for them specifically, if none of your other teammates are doing it with you, then your position is no longer good. Even if they watched a high level player do it and that's the right play, if nobody else is doing the right play, then your play is wrong in that specific scenario. And that's why you have to adapt to what your team is doing, not only the enemy team but your team as well, which is why it's tough to climb. It really is while you do a study, especially if you study actually, and then you think you know what you're doing is correct, and even if it is, it's not because of the other variables at play, your random teammates. I'm repeating myself, adaptability is the best skill you can have in a game where you're not coordinated 5-stack or coordinated 6-stack. You are randoms in a pickup game. You have to adapt to everybody. Anyways, I went on to a little bit of a rant, but thank you for listening to this week's Hot Takes, and I'll see you guys next week. Bye-bye.